Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today we are going to be taking a look at another Doctor Who Reddit leak, baby. Let's go. This one I saw just the other night and I thought, this one's interesting. So we're going to take a look at it. Be sure to like the video if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year and we do regular Doctor Who content here on the channel. But with that said, let's dive right in. So this Reddit leak is from the r/Doctor Who Leaks subreddit by a user called Key Responder. New showrunner and 16th Doctor speculation. Rumour. The below is all rumour speculation from a friend who is a runner on a production with ties to the BBC, but none whatsoever to do with Doctor Who or Bad Wolf. So this could all be BS, but I thought I would share. It's interesting the names that are all being chucked about. This is all from a discussion around the future of the show amongst production crew on the set of his other show who are fans of Doctor Who. Quote, Russell's contract with the BBC is up and they're not renewing. Jack Thorne is apparently already writing scripts for season 3/16 with production in late 2026. The BBC wanted Stephen Graham's Matriarch Productions to co-produce after the success of Adolescence, which Jack Thorne wrote, and 1,000 Blows, but they are tied up in an exclusivity deal with Disney+, which for obvious reasons is a dead end. The BBC have apparently renewed their agreement with Bad Wolf, as Thorne has a relationship established with the studio, but there's shuffling going on in terms of executive producers, as they want to bring in Netflix as an international streaming distribution. Another reason they've taken to Thorne, who has several series with them. Will Sharp is apparently in discussions to be the 16th Doctor, heard of him but never seen him in anything. Think that's the point. They want to steer away from known actors. That's all I've got. I heard Jack was signed on last month too, but none of the rest. I don't mind some of his work, but I'm not sure what his Doctor Who will look like. What do you think? I'm with them. I've seen some of Jack Thorne's work, but I don't know how he would be writing Doctor Who. Also never heard of Will, but looked him up and he seems doctory. So there you go. So a lot of things to go over there. Let's take that piece by piece. So first of all, the idea that obviously, I will say that it does say that it's from a runner on a different BBC show and obviously not Bad Wolf or Doctor Who related. So obviously that kind of makes it so that it's less maybe credible than some other leaks, you know, obviously. But what I will say is that production crews do talk, you know, they do mingle, they do hear things. So it's not impossible that they could have heard some stuff going on at the Doctor Who offices. Whether it be this much detail, I don't know. But moving on from that, let's just take a look at what this leak alleges here. Russell's contract with the BBC is up and they're not renewing. So that kind of makes sense when you consider the wording of the language used when it was announced we were getting a 2026 Christmas special. If you remember, it said in that press release that Russell T Davies had agreed to write another episode. Sort of implying that he wasn't signed on automatically, if that makes any sense. And I know that yesterday I covered Pete McTeague's quote saying that the position is not vacant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Russell's staying. As people pointed out in the comments, that could mean that someone else has been brought in that we just don't know about yet. So yeah, I'm having a look at it as well. Obviously they wanted Matriarch Productions, who did Adolescence. What else have they done? Let's have a look. They've done Boiling Point, Spit of You, Pop. Okay, so they've done quite a bit of stuff. So they wanted them, but obviously they weren't around because they had an exclusivity deal with Disney+, which obviously, with the collapse of the Doctor Who Disney deal, probably would have been a little bit awkward. So yeah, they have apparently gone with Bad Wolf again, which, to be honest, I've been saying for a while, I would be surprised if Bad Wolf left. Russell, I can see leaving, and I can see, you know, producers leaving and changing around and stuff like that, and chopping and changing. But I would be surprised if Bad Wolf themselves left, purely because, you know, it took a while to set up, you know, Bad Wolf being the production company. And also, I do kind of feel that, like, they've got the experience, and, like, I don't necessarily think that they're the issue with, like, current Doctor Who or anything. Like, you could argue that maybe, like, some of the people who, you know, are in charge of Bad Wolf are also, you know, very tied to Doctor Who, obviously Judy Garland and Jane Tranter, but just because they're in charge of Bad Wolf doesn't mean that they have to be, you know, at their forefront of Doctor Who necessarily. So I don't really think that Bad Wolf is an issue, particularly, to be honest, and I would be more than happy for them to stay, especially because, as it says here, Jack Thorne worked with them on his Dark Materials as well. So I'm fine with that. The other interesting thing here is that they mention that there's been shuffling around going on in terms of executive producers as they want to bring in Netflix as international streaming distribution. So 2 things there. One is an industry report 3 days ago said that a Bad Wolf production boss exits and was replaced by industry EP Kate Crother, or Kate Crother, I'm not sure how you say that. Russell, who had been working with Bad Wolf for just over 2 years, hand over to Crother, who was previously an exec at the Doctor Who outfit at the start of 2026. So this person used to be an exec at the Doctor Who outfit, and now they're moving on to be a director of production at Bad Wolf in general. So already we are kind of seeing the production offices at Bad Wolf getting a bit of a mix around. Now, what you could say about this with regards to this specific rumor, or this specific leak, or however you want to characterize it, is that this could just be taking that knowledge and kind of like creating something that sounds vaguely plausible. Obviously, a lot of the names that I mentioned here as well, Jack Thorne obviously being the main one, we have heard before when it comes to like rumors as to who's going to be the next showrunner. So you could argue that maybe this is just trying to make a likely scenario out of stuff that we've already heard before. Netflix as international distributor is interesting because on one level, they are definitely one of the biggest ones. I would have concerns if they were the streamer of Netflix's propensity to cancel things, although then again, I think that's largely true of any streamer. I mean, they cancelled the Doctor Who deal after 2 series over at Disney, so I mean, I feel like that's an issue we're going to run into either way, but Netflix is definitely the other big dog in the pond, and I think they're like the only one that's actually like turning a profit, I believe, of like the streaming services specifically. So maybe they'd be like a viable one, and of course if they've worked with Thorne before on Adolescence, that might, give this Doctor Who project a bit of credibility that it wouldn't otherwise have. Obviously Doctor Who hasn't had the best reputation for the last couple of years, but if it's attached to someone that they've already worked with, who was already, a massive success for them, that might make Netflix a bit more willing to come to the table, perhaps. Now, Will Sharp. I didn't know much about Will Sharp, but I'm going to have a quick Google. So here he is. Here is Will Sharp. I will say immediately, I can see it. I can see a doctor in there. I can see it. I think he's got like one of those faces that's like very distinctive and like unique, and that sounds like an insult, but it's not. It's actually a very good thing, but also specifically for the Doctor, it's one of those things where, yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Obviously, I don't know much about what he's been in. Let's have a look. Too Much, Amadeus, The Electrical Life of Louise Wayne, Emmanuel, A Real Pain. He was in White Lotus since 2021. That's like the only thing of this I recognise, to be honest. But yeah, if anyone else has seen him in anything else, then let me know. But I think that might be the point, like they say, go for someone who is a bit less known, which is something that I have kind of advocated for a while. We've kind of seen what happens when you get someone with a burgeoning career as the Doctor. Like, obviously, I love Ncuti, but like, obviously, he was growing when they got him in terms of his career. So you were never really going to hold on to him for too long. Whereas with a more unknown actor, there's more of a chance of them sticking around. He's 39 years old, which is a pretty good age to be the Doctor. I think that's about a good age. Let's have a look. Is there like a video of him we can look at to see, I want to see him in something, ideally. Let's have a look. These are a lot of talk shows, but... Okay, wait, did he play Mozart? Hang on. That might be a good test. Hold on. Amadeus official trailer. Okay, so he's done a Mozart show.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Antonio Salieri.
Why didn't you stand up for the music?
Just because you're stuck rehashing boring old operas doesn't mean I have to be.
Do you know what? Already, I'm kind of seeing it. I can kind of see it.
The whole reason why I came to Vienna was to write for the Imperial Opera.
This
It
repulsive.
reminds me of David Tennant playing Giacomo Casanova before becoming the Doctor. Like, you can kind of see, like, the mannerisms beginning to fall. I can see it, I can see it.
Creature played as though guided by a greater power.
Oh, this show just looks good side now. I'm not going to
Oh, yuck. Who wrote this?
How could I not take it as an insult?
People have made sacrifices for you because we see what you are, what you could be.
You've heard it, haven't you? My God, the boy can write.
It's quite good.
Quite good.
He had written a masterpiece, and I was nothing but a spectator.
Maybe God doesn't speak to you because you bore him.
Yeah, I'm here for this. I'm here for it. But there you go. There's the latest rumor / leak about who's going to be the next Doctor and showrunner and production company. A bit of an all-rounder today. But if you did enjoy this, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.